My mom looked me straight in the eye the moment I called from work and said, "I'm not your babysitter." No hesitation, no softness, just a clean break from the one person I thought would never fail my daughter. While Lily sat shivering outside her school for 2 long hours, my parents went on with their day as if her fear meant nothing. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I went quiet, so quiet it scared even me. And 3 days later, the panic started. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me, would you have stayed silent or would you have walked away too? I should probably tell you who I was before everything cracked open. I'm Sophia, 32, a single mom who spent most of her adult life learning how to look calm, even when the ground is shifting under my feet. People at work say I'm composed, reliable, good under pressure. They don't know it's a survival skill I learned long before I ever had a job. Our home sits in a quiet corner of the city, a small apartment with soft lamps and warm blankets. Nothing fancy, but safe. Safe matters when you're raising a 7-year-old who still believes the world will always catch her when she falls. Lily has my eyes, but not my history, and I've tried hard to keep it that way. She twirls around the kitchen, sings off-key, leaves glitter in places I'll never fully vacuum out. I want her to feel held in ways I never was. My parents live across town in a house that always feels colder than the weather outside. My mother Miriam carries her certainty like armor, sharp-polished, unyielding. When I was little, she'd tell me I was too sensitive, as if feeling deeply were a flaw I needed to outgrow. My father Charles learned early how to keep peace by staying silent, and he's perfected that silence into a skill so thin it's almost invisible. Still, I tried. Holidays, birthdays, Sunday visits. I showed up even when it cost me. I kept hoping motherhood might soften her, that being a grandmother might warm something old and rigid inside her. Sometimes she'd hold Lily with a stiff smile, and for a moment I'd imagine a different version of us, one I'd wanted since I was a kid. But beneath all of it, there was always a tiny crack. Small comments, quick dismissals, moments where she acted like Lily was an accessory, not a child. I ignored them, smoothed them over, convinced myself that keeping peace was the same as keeping family. Then came that afternoon in late winter, the call from the school, the fever, the panic. And my mother's voice, flat and clipped, cutting through the noise of my office, like it had been waiting years for the right moment to land. It didn't just break something. It revealed what had been broken all along. You ready for the moment? Everything shifted. The school never should have let Lily wait outside, but by the time I arrived, the damage was already done. She was curled on a concrete bench near the front steps, hugging her backpack like it might keep her warm. Her breath fogged the air. Her cheeks were flushed with cold, not fever. When she saw me, she didn't run into my arms the way she usually did. She just stood, slow and tired, and whispered, "Can we go home now?" Something inside me tightened, quiet, heavy, unignorable. That night, after I settled her on the couch with ginger tea and a blanket, I kept replaying everything. My mother's clipped tone, the way she hung up before I finished speaking, the way the receptionist explained almost apologetically that Lily couldn't stay inside because the office was short-staffed. I wanted to blame the whole world, but that cold 2-hour wait belonged to one person, Miriam. Still, the old instinct kicked in. Give it time. Don't escalate. Don't start a fight you can't win. I'd spent my whole life choosing softness in the face of her sharpness, believing peace was worth any personal cost. 3 days passed before the first voicemail came, then another, then another. First, my aunt's voice. "Your mom says she needs your help. What's going on?" Then her friend Carol, my mother's Carol, not mine. "Sounding uneasy, she's been trying to reach you. Did something happen?" Then my father, weary and strained. "Your mother's upset. Can you please call her back?" None of them mentioned Lily, not one. By then, I had already slipped into a familiar, strangely steady stillness. I wasn't ignoring them to punish anyone. I simply didn't have anything left to give. But the turning point didn't come from the voicemails. It came later that week when Lily and I were at the big retail store near my parents' neighborhood. I rarely shopped there, too many memories, but Lily needed frosting for a class project, and it was on the way to Carol's house for a baking day she'd been excited about all week. We were halfway down the baking aisle when I heard her voice, Sophia, not soft, not warm, just startled. Lily turned first. She offered a polite little smile, nothing like the bubbling joy she used to show her grandmother. Miriam bent down, arms open, but Lily didn't move. She glanced at the frosting box in her hand and asked me if she could get the one with sprinkles instead. My mother straightened slowly, her expression cracking for the first time in years. "Why are you here?" she asked. "We're going to a baking day," I said, "at Carol's." The way her face froze told me everything. She finally felt it, the absence, the distance, the consequences. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't rush to fill the silence. Miriam blinked at me as if the sentence were written in a language she'd never learned. Carol's. "Why would you go there?" Her voice sharpened, the same edge she'd used on me my whole childhood, an edge meant to correct, to belittle, to pull me back into place. But I didn't answer. I didn't owe her the softness she'd never given me. She forced a smile, too bright, too strained. "Well, I could come along. I haven't seen Lily in a while." Before I might have paused, considered, tried to smooth things over, but that version of me had dissolved on a cold bench outside Lily's school. "No," I said simply. "You're not invited." The color drained from her face. I watched the shock break over her, a silent, almost physical jolt. She stepped closer, her perfume too familiar, too heavy. "Sophia, this is ridiculous. You're still upset about that school thing. You know I was busy. You know you overreact sometimes. Why drag this out?" Busy. Overreact. Drag this out. The same script she'd used since I was old enough to cry. I crouched beside Lily, who was comparing 2 jars of sprinkles like the world wasn't cracking behind us. "Are you ready?" I asked. She nodded, placed the jar in the cart, and slipped her hand into mine. We walked past Miriam without another word. That night, 4 voicemails waited on my phone. One angry, one confused, one crying, one pleading for Lily. I didn't listen twice. I didn't respond. And that silence, the very thing she'd always used as a weapon against me, suddenly belonged to me. Days passed. My father texted the way he always did, not to take responsibility, not to ask what happened, but to urge me back into my role as the family's emotional buffer. "You've made your point. Your mother is miserable. What do you want from her?" But he didn't understand. This wasn't a point, it was a line. Then came the envelope. Thick, cream-colored, too formal for anything good. I almost threw it away, but curiosity stopped me. Inside was a straightforward notification my parents had updated their will. I was no longer the executor. Rachel, my cousin, who once called Lily dramatic for crying at her own birthday party, was now in charge. It was meant to hurt me. Instead, it clarified everything. I placed the letter on the counter. No anger, no tears, just a quiet, solid certainty settling into my bones. They wanted distance, so I gave it to them. But even as I stepped back, I knew something bigger was coming. Some shift I could feel but not see yet, like the air tightening before a storm. And storms always demand a reckoning. By the end of February, I had grown used to the quiet. Not peace quiet, the kind that settles in after a long storm, but still smells like rain. My phone barely buzzed anymore. When it did, it was a short message from my dad, a guilt-laced voicemail from my mother, or a clipped reminder from Rachel about some family update I hadn't acknowledged. I'd stopped answering. I'd stopped explaining. I'd stopped trying to fix what none of them wanted to face. And in the stillness, Lily changed too. She no longer asked when we'd see Grandma or why we didn't visit on Sundays anymore. She just moved around our little apartment with a softer, steadier confidence, as if she'd learned in her own quiet way that safety is not a place, but a person. Then on a bitter Thursday night, the storm finally broke. It was just before midnight when my phone lit up. I didn't recognize the feeling in my chest when I saw the name. It wasn't fear. It wasn't worry. It was something closer to resignation and exhausted acknowledgement that whatever came next had been brewing for years. I let it ring. One call, then another. When I finally checked, there were 3 missed calls from my dad. Then a text. "Power's out. Your mom slipped on the porch. I can't get the car out. Can you come help?" For a moment, I pictured the scene. The steep driveway she always refused to let anyone shovel. The frozen walkway she insisted she could handle herself. The porch light that flickered when the wind hit a certain angle. and her Miriam angry cold, stunned that the world wasn't bending to her will. The part of me that had spent my childhood trying to please her flinched. Reflex, not desire. But the image that came after erased everything. Lily on the school steps, tiny body curled against the cold breath, turning to mist, waiting for someone who never came. I typed one word, no, and I put my phone face down. I slept better than I had in weeks. In the morning, sunlight cut a thin line across my bedroom floor. My phone showed 7 more missed calls and 2 voicemails, one frantic, one crying. I didn't press play. Instead, I called Carol and asked if she wanted to take Lily to the Children's Museum. She said yes, without hesitation. That's who she was, steady, present, soft, where my mother was sharp. We spent the day wandering through hands-on exhibits, laughing at Lily's hiccups when she ran through the bubble room and eating pancakes at a diner that smelled like warm syrup and childhood. At no point did Lily ask where my parents were. The next wave came through Rachel. She called late in the afternoon, her voice pitched somewhere between concern and condescension. "Your mom fractured her wrist," she said. "Your dad's back is out from helping her. They've been without power for 2 days. Maybe you should consider being the bigger person here." I almost laughed. Bigger person. As if I hadn't spent my entire life being exactly that. "I already am," I said. "That's why I'm keeping Lily away." She sputtered, caught off guard. "You don't mean I do." I hung up before she could finish. The next day, an email arrived. Long, rambling, full of sentences that almost resembled apologies, but never quite made it there. The kind my mom always crafted when she needed something, not when she understood something. "I'm sorry things got out of hand. I miss you both. Family should stick together. I don't know how we ended up here." Every line skirted the real issue. Not once did she mention Lily outside that school. Not once did she admit what she'd done. I closed it and went on with my day. By early March, the temperature dropped even lower. The roads shimmered with a thin sheet of ice that seemed to hold the whole city by the throat. I wrapped Lily in her warmest coat and scarf, and we drove to a craft fair in a small town an hour away. She wanted to buy sparkly string for friendship bracelets. She held my hand the entire time. On the drive back, Carol spotted a car on the shoulder, a black SUV with hazard lights blinking in the gray afternoon. She said my name softly. I slowed just enough to see through the frost-blurred windows. It was my parents. My dad hunched over the steering wheel. My mom, leaning back, her wrist wrapped her face pale. They looked small in a way I'd never seen them, like the world had finally handed them a mirror instead of a microphone. For a moment, I hovered on the edge of stopping, not because I felt obligated, but because the child I used to be still lived somewhere in my bones. Then Lily looked up from the back seat, humming a tune as she braided her sparkly string. I pressed the gas. When we got home, I made dinner, while Lily showed Carol her crafts. The hum of the apartment heater, the clatter of dishes, the soft laughter, it all felt like a life I'd built intentionally, piece by piece, without realizing it. But even then, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she showed me a drawing, a small pink house, 3 stick figures, me, Lily, and Carol. Lily in the middle, holding both our hands. "Can I put it on the fridge?" she asked. "Of course." She paused before skipping off. "Mom, do I still have a grandma?" The question caught me off guard, not because of its content, but because she asked it without anger, without sadness. Just curiosity. Like she was rearranging the world in her head and trying to understand where everything fit now. "Yes," I said softly, "but things are complicated." She nodded in that wise, unassuming way children sometimes do. Maybe she forgot how to be nice. After she went to bed, I stared at that drawing until the room blurred. In all my hurt and all my protecting, I had forgotten the simplest truth. Lily had her own story, her own feelings, her own understanding of family. And maybe she wasn't ready to erase people the way I had been forced to. So I picked up my phone and for the first time in weeks, typed a message. "Do you want to see Lily next weekend? No apology, no conditions, just an opening." My mother replied in 3 minutes, "Yes." The following Saturday, we met at a park, neutral ground, cold but brighter than the weeks before. My parents sat on a bench like people unsure whether they were welcome. Lily approached them slowly, then turned to me for permission before saying hello. They said it back. Then she asked, "Grandma, will you push me on the swing?" My mother looked stunned. Not triumphant, not relieved, just stunned. She looked at me. I nodded. And in that moment, small, fragile, real, the storm finally began to settle. My mother walked toward the swing as if the ground beneath her might crack. She placed her good hand on the back of the seat and pushed gently, almost cautiously, like she feared Lily might change her mind. Lily leaned back, letting the wind catch her hair, her small boots brushing the dirt with each pass. My parents didn't rush, didn't overstep, didn't try to claim a place they hadn't earned. They simply existed in the background, quiet, tentative, aware. For the first time, that silence wasn't a weapon. It was space. I sat on a nearby bench, watching the scene unfold with a strange blend of relief and ache. I wasn't healed. Neither were they. But the sharp edges inside me had softened, rounded by time and distance, and the realization that my power had never come from punishment, it came from protection. Protecting Lily. Protecting myself. The visit lasted less than an hour. No speeches, no forced apologies, just small, careful steps. When it was time to leave, my parents didn't ask for more. They simply nodded, grateful for what they'd been given. A week later, my dad emailed me a flyer for Lily's school fundraiser asking if they could attend only if it's okay with you. I said yes, with boundaries. They followed every one. They stayed in the back, clapped quietly, and left without trying to rewrite history. Another drawing appeared on our fridge soon after. Same pink house, but now 5 figures. And for the first time, the picture didn't hurt. It felt like a beginning, not perfect, but possible. In the end, nothing returned to the way it was, and that was the point. We didn't rebuild the old version of our family. We built a quieter, sturdier one shaped by boundaries instead of fear. Lily felt safe again, and I finally understood that protecting her would always matter more than keeping the peace. If this story stayed with you, tell me where you're listening from. And if you've ever had to draw a hard line with family, share your story below and subscribe for more.